All right, guys. I don't know how the hell I feel about this pick. Listen, I like the player. I like Dalton Kincaid. I love his ability to. I love his ability to be a receiver. I love his route running ability. I feel like it's the best. I feel like he's the best route runner out of all the tight ends. I feel like he's a guy with some of the best hands in this draft. His catch radius is out of this world. I love his ability I love his ability to run routes as far as his route tree goes. I love that about him. I love his speed. I love his ability to break tackles. I'm describing a receiver, right? Which in today's league, right, as far as the Darren Wallers and the Greg Olsons of the world, like those are the tight ends that are starting to become a lot more popular, right? Those are the tight ends that is a linebacker's worst nightmare. That's a nickelback's worst nightmare. That's a safety's worst nightmare. So I don't have a problem with the player. And if Dalton Kincaid would have went to the Dallas Cowboys, I would have gave them a grade A+. For once, I agree with Skip Bayless. Dalton Kincaid going to the Dallas Cowboys, or if he went to the Chargers, or a lot of these other teams that desperately need tight ends, I think it would have been a phenomenal pick. But the fact that you have a $50 million tight end on your roster that has some really good receiving ability, that not that long ago had 10 receiving touchdowns, that really started to improve his route running ability, that his hands were starting to get a little bit more stronger, and you drafted him for and the athleticism that I just described is something that Dawson Knox has. Maybe he doesn't have the route tree or the route diversity that Dalton Kincaid has to offer, but you have a player in Dawson Knox who is, if we're just talking about from the physical standpoint, and the fact that we also have to include that even though Dalton's a better receiver, Dawson Knox isn't that far behind, and he can run, and he can also run block as well. If you were going to get another tight end, why in the hell would you get a receiving tight end instead of getting a guy that can play on the end line? Because Dalton Kincaid's, he can do it. No, trust me, I'm not going to say he can't, because he can. But if you're going to start to run a lot more 12 personnel, right, which we're guessing that they're going to start to incorporate a lot, that's not his biggest strength. That's not his biggest suit. If anything, you could have went with Darnell Washington or maybe even a Michael Mayer, guys that have that show you that they can do both, right? You look at a guy like a Darnell Washington who you can use as a red zone threat, who has that elite radius, who has those elite athletic traits, right? Who has the physical intangibles and is the best run blocker in this draft class. The same thing with Michael Mayer, who's also a little bit of a better inline, who's definitely, in my opinion, the best inline tight end in this class. That's who honestly you can pair up with as far as by running these 12 personnel sets. Now with Dalton Kincaid, are you going to use him in the inline? Probably not, because that's not what he does. He is more of a slot receiver. Right, you use him, like you flex him out a little bit, and that's the way to best utilize him. So the question is though, is that again, if you're going to be running a lot more 12 personnel sets, or if you're going to start, it kind of, I don't know, because he can't run block, and guys, I'm not even over exaggerating. He can't do it. He is not a run blocker. That is not his biggest strength. So I think the question is what role are you going to do it in? How are you going to utilize him to his fullest potential? Because we haven't utilized our tight ends ever in this goddamn offense. I think another thing, too, that I'm kind of pissed off about is the fact that with Dalton Kincaid, we're not running the football. We're going to continue to pass. You just eliminated any sort of threat that we're possibly going to be improving a little bit of our run game, which is something that we definitely need to improve. Because again, one of the things that as Bills fans that we all complained about is the fact that Josh Allen has too much of the damn workload. So how is getting a receiving tight end? How is that not going to decrease his workload? If anything, we're probably going to increase it a little bit more under this shitty ass Ken Dorsey offense. I don't have a problem with the player, because I think Dalton Kincaid is a hell of a player. And again, if he went to the Dallas Cowboys, or if he went to the LA Chargers, or if he went to the Kansas City Chiefs or the Cincinnati Bengals, I think that will be a great pick for those teams. Matter of fact, I think that will have been an excellent pick for those teams. Because at the end of the day, Dalton Kincaid is a weapon. He is the best receiving tight end in this draft class. But damn it, not everyone can be a Travis Kelce. Not everyone can be a Greg Olsen. Not everyone can be a Darren Waller. Not everyone can be one of these elite receiving tight ends, a George Kittle, guys like that. Not everyone's going to be a part of that class. Because we have receiving, there are a lot of receiving tight ends in this league, right? And maybe he can be that next tier, right? Maybe he can be a Mike Gesicki or, what if he becomes a Mike Gesicki? What if he becomes a Hunter Henry? Yes, those are good tight ends, but are they first-round value guys? No, they're not first-round value guys. Well, Hunter Henry got took in the first round, but again, he's not really, at least in this day and age, he's not considered to be first-round value. He's not in that tier. You just kind of just eliminated a lot of that diversity you would have had by running a lot more of these 12 personnel sets. Because again, if you can get guys that can do both, imagine if you can get guys that can do both, guys that can have support in the run game, have support in the receiving game, but also lining them up in the slot, which Michael Mayer and Darnell Washington have done throughout their careers. That to me is a lot more valuable in this offense, especially when you have a similar tight end in Dawson Knox, who, by the way, you paid $50 million to. You paid him $14.5. He's getting $14.5 million this year. I believe, $30 million of it is guaranteed. You just paid that man. And now I don't know. I can't see how both of these guys are going to be utilized to the fullest potential in this offense, especially up to their contracts. I just don't see it. It's either one or it's the other. Is it possible for it to be utilized? Absolutely it is. But it's going to be very hard, at least under this offense, unless you're really going to change a little bit your offense, unless you're willing to make that change to change up that philosophy. I don't know. I just don't think it's going to be that big of a turnaround in this offense. If I had to grade this, I'll give it a C+, because I love the player. I just don't like him. I personally just don't like him on this team. And again, who knows? In about a year or two, I could look like a fool. Dalton Kincaid could have 700, 800 receiving yards, and he could be extremely valuable in this offense. But then what happens with Dawson Knox? How do you utilize Dawson Knox to the best of his ability? It doesn't seem like a win-win situation for us. It seems like someone's going to have to be the loser here. Someone's going to have to be the loser. And either it's Kincaid or it's Knox. One of these two are going to have to be the loser in the long run. And I don't know. I would have been, for me personally, Michael Mayer or Darnell Washington would have been better fits in this offense to what we're trying to do. Getting a receiving tight end to match with Dox, I just don't think that's the pairing that they want. At least to me. I could be totally wrong, but only time will tell.